Terra's Story, Chapter 2. The emergency lighting turned out to be a couple of camping lanterns in the kitchen and a big fat white column candle on each of the 5 round Formica tables, softening the bright turquoise plastic upholstery of the 195O's style diner. The small place was warm and the air fragrant with the smells of fresh food. They filed over to the table nearest the service window and peeked into the kitchen. "Hey, Boo," Joan called. "We're starvin' over here. Got pea soup today?" "Yep, and coleslaw too, Joni. I'll toast you up some garlic bread real quick, too." The tiny slip of a woman stirring the big pot turned, her pale redhead skin in stark contrast to the flash of red beneath the hairnet containing a mop of curls. Her eyes were crinkled with the welcoming smile stretched across her cheeks. "Terra, Brian, isn't it? Welcome. Cap said to keep his troops nourished, so that's what I'm doing. Got BLTs, burgers, omelets, still some wings, I think. What'll you have?" "Pea soup and slaw for me, too," Terra ordered as she slid into a chair. "Same for me, plus a BLT," Brian echoed. "You gonna be open in the morning, Boo?" Joni wondered. "Yeah, Joni. Bo is gonna be here shortly to take the night shift, and we've got stock in the pantry for a few days." She spoke as she bustled around, checking the garlic bread toasting in the oven and ladling soup into bowls. "When you lived in Nolines as long as we did, you keep a supply on hand. Sure didn't expect to run into similar situations this far from the Gulf, though." Boo slid the steaming bowls across the counter of the service window. Joan stood up to receive them and carry them to the table. More good news floated through the service window. "I'll have hot breakfasts and Nolines coffee ready for y'all in the morning, too. Cap wants us in by 6, Joan remembered. "Well then, it might be Bo what serves you breakfast, but one of us will be here." The warm food filling their bellies made all three relax a bit, suddenly aware of how tight they'd been holding themselves to plow through the tiredness. Joan broke the satisfied silence that followed their meal. "That was some piece of serendipity today, you guys, being on the hill and all." She looked pointedly at Terra. "And there's more to the story that you didn't put in the official report, right?" She leaned forward and shifted her gaze to Brian, narrowing her eyes and pursing her lips. "But Cap told me a little." Brian lifted a brow, slightly surprised. "He told you?" Joni's head bobbed in acknowledgement. "Of course, we, Terra, Cap and me, and now you, apparently, Brian, we have ways of doing things that aren't, well, let's say the department can't regulate what it isn't aware of. Sometimes special gifts come in real handy. Like..." She stopped and looked at Terra, clearly expecting her to jump in. She did. "Like shape-shifting, Brian, like all kinds of, let's say, enhanced human abilities. So yes, Joni, Brian shifted into his hawk and captured the drone." "Like you did when you shifted into your Mo and saved that little girl," Joan reminded her, watching Brian's face as the information registered. "Cap was really interested in that talent you had when you came back from Molokai. He had to parry some pretty pointed questions about the physical trail you left behind, too. Said it looked like some kind of out-of-control ATV careening through the woods." They both giggled. "So what special talents do you have, Joan?" Brian asked, his face bright with curiosity. "Well," Joni grinned, "I'm a tabby cat shifter, and I have an owl aspect, too. Not a big barn owl, but a little hooter more suited to the city." Her grin widened. "Although I do like to visit Terra's park and peek in her windows sometime." She grew more serious. "I'm also good at remote viewing. Don't need an animal body for that." She paused, thinking, "And I have super good hearing." She stopped and gave him a pointed smirk. This time he gave her a cheeky grin. It worked, didn't it? Joni tried her best, but she couldn't stifle the laugh. Terra laughed too. God, it felt good to laugh. It gave her enough energy to think about moving her tired body on home and into bed. She looked back and forth, Joni to Brian and back again, wondering, could they possibly have any energy to pursue this now? Oh my God, I am getting so old. Abruptly, she stood. "Good night, kiddos. Hasta mañana." And she left for home, weaving only once when her body struggled for balance. Brian looked at Joan. "I want to pursue this, you know." "Pursue what?" she quipped. "The crackle of electricity between us. The way my energy pulses when I know we're going to be in the same meeting in a few minutes. The way my body... No, I'm not going to go there yet. This feels too important to shortchange with eagerness. which is why tonight we sleep. I want to be fully present to engage with you when we do this." "What is the this we are doing?" Joni retorted. "You'll tell me, Joan." He gazed at her without blinking. "You will tell me. Let's start off on the right foot with that understanding. And right now, I've got just enough steam to make it home. How are you? How far are you from home?" Even his voice sounded tired. "I'm tired too, and there are no taxis anywhere. It's not too far, but I'd rather not walk it alone at this time of night. Too much weirdness going on. I don't suppose—" She trailed off. "Of course I'll walk you home. Promise it's not too far?" Brian probed. 6 blocks about, Joan clarified. "I can make that," Brian replied. "And I have a big, soft, cushy sofa and extra pillows and blankets. You don't even have to leave. Can't make you coffee, but we can boogie back to booze before we report in," Joni added. "Under the circumstances, it's a great idea. Another time, I'd be maneuvering my way into bed with you, but tonight I'll be glad to make it to your sofa." Joan didn't resist when Brian reached around her and pulled her in close. It felt too good. And when he stroked the side of her face, shivers ran all through her. But when he cupped her face with both hands and began to pepper sweet little kisses on her forehead, cheeks, nose, eyebrows, and finally, her lips, her lady parts burst into flames. When he pulled back, she gasped for breath, her heart racing. He felt her response, and he felt his own response intensely in his man parts, which stood at attention in salute. His smile matched the tenderness in his eyes. "Come on, hot stuff," he commented as he reached for her hand and they started down the street. He moaned when the cell phone alarm went off and muttered on his way to the bathroom. "Goddamn dark 30, mumble grumble." The only sound from Joan's bedroom was a similar moan and the rustle of bedclothes being pulled up to her chin. Brian came out of the bathroom and rapped sharply on Joan's bedroom door. "Hey, beautiful. Get that purty ass out of bed and let's get over to booze." She muttered something unintelligible and probably unflattering, but she sat up and shook her head to open her bleary eyes. Smartass. "Can it? Will ya?" And she yawned unceremoniously as she shuffled for her slippers, then headed for a quick stand-up wash. The streets were empty and had an eerie feeling about them. They both scanned everything around them, wary and looking for something to explain the ominous feeling. Nothing showed up before they opened the door to booze. This time, Beau stuck his head out as soon as the door chimed. "Hi, Boo said you'd be in early. Espresso's almost done. You want it straight or cappuccino, Ed?" "Straight," she said. "Cappuccino, Ed," he said. "Make one for me too, Beau. Cappuccino, Ed." Terra called as she pulled the door open. "And I'm hungry. Got any oatmeal? What's in it today?" "Yes," he called out. "And today we got cranberries, walnuts, and maple syrup in it. You want some?" "Yep, please." She sauntered over to their table and plopped down. "I do feel better today, thank the goddess. I wonder what this day will hold." She trailed off as she reached for the cappuccino. Beau had just slid across the service counter and carried it reverently to the table, where she backed into a captain's chair and sat. Once it was safely on the table, she wiggled around to find just the right spot, picked up the cup, and carefully sipped the edge of the steamed milk. "Ah, I'm gonna make it after all. Hallelujah." Joan and Brian chuckled and lifted their mugs. "Cheers." It's the simple things that give life its glow. Their glow lasted until they got to the squad meeting. Cap had clearly benefited from Christine's new brand of sleeping pill, and probably some decent food, too. His demeanor was calm as he shuffled a stack of papers and clipped a few together. "So listen up, folks. Thanks to Grimm and Kano, we made some headway yesterday," Cap announced. "Our team that collected the equipment from the apartment of the two they busted yesterday found evidence that the drone they captured was not simply for surveillance. That's how they intend to retrieve the ransom money."